Welcome, my friends, to another edition of More Bad News, brought to you as always by Camel Cigarettes. Take the Camels Challenge, smoke Camels for 30 days, and see for yourself what a difference Camels can make in your life. Well, last week I visited the Pine River Area Museum, uh, and I'm posting this week of my walkthrough. So I thought that I would give you a short introduction to the video. Karen and I love to ride the Pine River Trail State Park, which stretches 92 miles from Grand Rapids to Cadillac. It was originally the route of the Grand Rapids and Indiana Railroad. In 1872, the Reverend Josiah Tustin was hired by the railroad to go to Sweden to recruit workers to build the railroad for the booming lumber industry. He recruited 1,000 workers, and thus Tustin was born. I should say that Michigan spent a lot of effort to recruit people to come to Michigan to work in the lumber industry and in other things to get people to populate the state. So the Lansing sent recruiters to Castle Garden in New York, to Europe, to try to get people to move into Michigan to populate the state. It happens that I'm just now finishing up reading Richard Powers' The Overstory. This is a Pulitzer Prize-winning novel described as an ingeniously structured narrative that branches like a tree. That's the core of the story, and talks about the relationship between humans and trees. Quote, "It's a sweeping and impassioned work of activism and resistance that recounts the timber wars of the Pacific Northwest. It describes a world alongside ours, vast, slow, interconnected, resourceful, magnificently inventive, and almost invisible to us. This is the story of a handful of people who learn to see that world and are drawn into its unfolding catastrophe." Before the Europeans arrived, Michigan was covered by old-growth forests. When I was teaching Michigan history, I used to tell my students that Michigan lumber was worth more than California gold. And like the gold, it was subject to a brutal extraction process, which destroyed the forests in less than 50 years. Today, Hartwick Pine State Park contains the last 49 acres of Michigan's old growth. Michigan's white pines were over 100 feet tall, 5 foot in diameter. It took them 300 years to grow to maturity, and we cut them all down between 1850 and 1900. For a perspective on what we have done, I turn to Powers' powerful novel. This is a little piece from the end of the novel. Say the planet is born at midnight and runs for one day. First, there is nothing for 2 hours. We're lost to lava and meteors. Life doesn't show up until 3 or 4 in the morning. Even then, it's just the barest bits and pieces. From dawn until late morning, a million years of branching, and nothing more exists than simple cells. And then there's everything. Something wild happens. Not long after noon, one kind of simple cell enslaves a couple of others. Nuclei get membranes, cells evolve organelles, and what was once a solo campsite becomes a thriving town. The day is two-thirds done when animals and plants part ways. Dusk falls before compound life takes hold. Every large living thing is a latecomer, showing up after dark. 9 p.m. brings jellyfish and worms. Later that hour comes the breakout, backbones and cartilage, an explosion of body forms. And from one instant to the next, countless new stems and twigs branch out and crown our burst through and run. Plants make it to land just before 10, and then insects who instantly take to the air. Moments later, pteropods crawl up from the tidal muck, carrying around their skin, in their skin and their guts, whole worlds from earlier creatures. By 11, dinosaurs have shot their bolt, leaving the last hour to mammals and birds. Somewhere in the last 60 minutes, high up in the phylogenetic canopy, life grows aware. Creatures start to speculate. Animals start teaching their children about the past and the future. Animals learn to hold rituals. Anatomically modern man shows up the 4 seconds before midnight. The first cave paintings appear 3 seconds later. And in a thousandth of a click of a second, life solves the mystery of DNA and starts to map the tree of life itself. By midnight, most of the globe is converted to row crops for the care and feeding of a single species. And that's when the tree of life becomes something else. That's when the giant trunk starts to teeter. So that's my story for this week. The Tustin Museum is an amazing collection. I had a tremendous time there. You'll notice that I'm like a child in a candy store. My most profound and oft-repeated comment during the video is "wow." So I hope you'll enjoy my tour of the Pine River Museum. If all goes well, I'll see you again next week. Remember, we'll be back with more bad news. Remember to take the Camels Challenge, smoke camels, and see for yourself what a difference camels can make in your life.